The old man coughed, his hand, bone-thin and spotted with age, clutched a silk handkerchief. Sally watched him from across their lavish living room, her lip curling slightly. He was a grotesque thing, this husband of hers. Wealthy, yes, but decrepit, a living reminder of her sacrifice. She had married for security, for escape from the drudgery of her former life. Thankfully, he was well past his prime for sex. He had promised her the world, a world built on his fortune. But it felt like a sour taste in her mouth. Every day felt like an eternity, chained to this aging, wheezing burden. He looked up then, his watery blue eyes finding hers. Sally was quick to put a warm smile on her face. A weak smile flickered across his lips. "Sally, my dear," he croaked, his voice a dry rasp. "Come, sit with me." She moved to sit next to him. Her words were like honey and false in her claims that she truly loved him. Sally had a family secret of her own. She had heard story passed down through the generations of her family. A hidden spring deep within the woods this old man now owned. A place of magic, they said. A place to regain youth. Legends spoke of its power to turn back time, to restore what was lost. At first she dismissed them, fairy tales that her mother told her, but her mother persisted, growing louder, more stern, and with each passing day, with every labored breath of her husband, the spring was more like a opportunity. The woods were said to be dangerous to those unaware of its layout, but what did she have to fear? She was already living in a cage of her own making. The family story promised freedom. "A break from the house, my dear," she purred, her voice like honeyed poison. "A chance to breathe fresh air, to reconnect with nature." He looked at her, suspicion flickering in his watery eyes. He wasn't a fool, this old man. He knew she married him for his money. The only way she would get his fortune was an heir, or he'd die of natural causes. But he was weak, easily swayed by the promise of something new. And so he agreed, his frail hand trembling as he nodded in agreement. She smiled, a slow predatory smile that didn't reach her eyes. The urge grew louder, moving her forward in her plan. The journey seemed long, the silence broken only by his occasional coughs and the rustling of the ancient trees as they walked past them. The air felt colder, heavier, as they neared the deeper woods. She could almost taste the magic, feel it thrumming beneath her skin. The clearing was just as she had pictured it, shadowed, silent, the air thick with unseen energy. The spring itself was small, almost insignificant, nestled at the base of a gnarled oak, just as her mother described it and warned her, never tell a person outside the family. But the water moved in a way if it was alive. He hesitated at the edge of the clearing, his hand gripping his cane. "This place, it unsettles me, Sally." She took his arm, her touch surprisingly strong. "Nonsense, darling," she crooned. "Don't you feel it? The energy, the life force? This spring, it's a gift. Take a drink and you will be refreshed." He looked unconvinced, but he allowed her to lead him closer. She knelt at the edge of the spring, cupping her hand and bringing the strange water to his lips. "Drink, my love," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the rustling leaves. "Drink and be young again." He drank, and she urged him to drink more, her eyes gleaming with a hidden agenda. "Keep drinking," she insisted, her voice growing more insistent. "You must drink it all." Sally already looked younger herself just from touching the water. She was quick to dry her hands. As he continued to drink, his body began to change, to shrink, his wrinkles smoothed out. His hair darkened and his frail frame grew stronger. But she didn't stop him. "Drink," she urged, her voice now a command. "Drink until I say stop. You can a teenager again, my love." He obeyed, his mind clouded by the magic of the spring. And then, as the last drop passed his lips, he began to shrink further, his body regressing to that of a child, then an infant. His eyes, once filled with wisdom and age, now stared blankly, his mind wiped clean. She smiled, a cold, triumphant smile. Now, she thought, all his wealth, all his power would be hers, and he, her once powerful husband, was now nothing more than a helpless naked baby at her feet, completely under her control. She would carry him back home and claim that he was her son, then wait until she had a fully stocked nursery. Finally, she would make the claim that her husband went for a walk toward town and never returned, even if the police suspected foul play. They never find a body, and his clothing was here back at the house along with his cane. She would raise him like her own beloved child, show him love and affection, urge him to marry for love and start a family. She would tell him of the spring, and when she grew old, she would make the walk with him to the spring and start her own life over again. She would return to this house as an innocent babe to be raised among wealth and a loving family. Finally, free from her past memories of her life. With luck and hope, this would the start of a family tradition.